I messaged the family group chat. My wedding's this Friday. Would love to see you there. My sister replied, we're busy, don't expect us. My mom added, stop being so dramatic. I just sent back, okay. That evening, what they saw on social media made them instantly regret staying. The notification lit up my phone screen at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. The family group chat. I stared at it for a moment before opening the message thread, already knowing what I'd find there. My sister's birthday photos from last weekend. 43 pictures of her celebration at some upscale restaurant downtown, complete with a custom cake and what looked like half the city in attendance. Mom had commented with 7 heart emojis and a paragraph about how proud she was of her baby girl. I scrolled past without reacting. My thumb hovered over the keyboard, then I typed out my message. Simple, direct, just the facts. My wedding was this Friday. I'd love to see them there. I hit send and put the phone face down on my desk, returning to the spreadsheet in front of me. The response came faster than I expected. My sister's message appeared within 3 minutes. They were busy, she wrote. Don't expect them. No explanation. No apology. Just those 2 sentences that felt like a door closing. Then Mom chimed in. I was being dramatic. Again. Always the dramatic one, apparently. I picked up my phone and typed back a single word. Okay, that was it. The sum total of my family's involvement in what was supposed to be the biggest day of my life. 4 years of relationship building, 2 years of planning, and they couldn't spare a Friday evening. The thing was, this wasn't surprising. Not really. It was just the latest in a long pattern that stretched back further than I wanted to remember. Growing up, I'd been the invisible one. My sister had been the star athlete, the honor student, the one who could do no wrong. I'd been decent at school, played soccer in middle school until I broke my ankle, and mostly kept my head down. When she got a B, it was a catastrophe that required family intervention. When I got an A, it went unmentioned. Her failures were temporary setbacks. My successes were expected and therefore unremarkable. College had been my escape. I'd moved 3 states away, found work in software development, built a life that didn't revolve around being the supporting character in someone else's story. I met my fiancée at a tech conference 4 years ago. She worked in cybersecurity for a financial firm. We'd bonded over terrible conference coffee and a shared hatred of mandatory networking events. The relationship had been easy in a way I hadn't known relationships could be. No drama, no games. Just 2 people who genuinely enjoyed each other's company and wanted to build something together. When I proposed last year at a cabin we'd rented in the mountains, she'd cried and said yes, and we'd spent the rest of the weekend planning a future that felt real and solid in mine. I called my family the next day to share the news. Mom had been distracted, said congratulations quickly, then launched into a story about my sister's new promotion. The conversation lasted 8 minutes. 3 of those were me listening to details about a job I didn't understand at a company I'd never heard of. When I finally hung up, my fiancé had asked if I was okay. I'd said yes, and I'd mostly meant it. I'd stopped expecting different somewhere along the way. The months that followed were filled with wedding planning. We kept it modest. A small venue that overlooked the harbor, capacity for 80 guests, ceremony at sunset. My fiancé's family had been involved from day one. Her mom had helped with centerpieces. Her dad had insisted on covering the catering costs despite our protests. Her younger brother had agreed to be a groomsman without hesitation. My family had received their save-the-dates 6 months ago. I'd followed up with formal invitations 2 months back. The RSVP deadline had come and gone without response. I'd sent a gentle reminder text. No answer. I called once. It went to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. Then came yesterday's message in the group chat. The final confirmation of what I'd already known. They weren't coming. They'd never planned to come. And they couldn't even be bothered to pretend they cared. I closed my laptop and stood up, walking to the window of my apartment. The city stretched out below, lights beginning to flicker on as evening approached. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my best friend, asking if I wanted to grab dinner. I told him I'd meet him at the usual place in 20 minutes. Over burgers and beer, I told him about the group chat exchange. He listened without interrupting, which was one of the things I appreciated most about him. When I finished, he took a long drink and set down his glass. He said my family was full of assholes. I laughed because it was true and because sometimes you needed someone to say it plainly. He asked if I was okay. I told him I was better than okay. I meant it this time. The idea came to me that night, as I was falling asleep. It wasn't elaborate or cruel. It was just the truth, presented in a way that would make them see what they'd missed. I grabbed my phone and started typing notes. By the time I finally slept, I had a plan. Wednesday morning, I made 3 phone calls. The first was to our photographer, confirming she could provide digital files immediately after the ceremony. She said yes without question. The second was to my fiancé's brother, asking if he'd be willing to help with something during the reception. He agreed before I even finished explaining. The third was to a friend who ran a social media marketing agency, asking for a favor. She told me to send her what I needed, and she'd make it perfect. Thursday passed in a blur of final preparations. The rehearsal dinner was small and warm, and everything I'd hoped it would be. My future father-in-law gave a toast that made me tear up. My fiancé's grandmother, who'd flown in from Arizona, told embarrassing stories about her granddaughter that had everyone laughing. I looked around the table at people who'd known me for 4 years or 4 days, and realized this was what family was supposed to feel like. Friday arrived clear and beautiful. The ceremony was scheduled for 6 p.m., golden hour, the light perfect for photos. I stood in the getting ready room of the venue, adjusting my tie for the 3rd time. My best friend appeared beside me and told me to stop fidgeting. I told him I wasn't nervous about getting married. I was nervous about everything being perfect. He reminded me it would be perfect because it was exactly what we wanted it to be. He was right. The ceremony was flawless. My fiancée looked stunning in a simple silk dress that caught the sunset light. Her eyes met mine as she walked down the aisle, and everything else faded away. The officiant, a friend from college who'd gotten ordained specifically for this, kept it personal and heartfelt. When we exchanged vows, I meant every single word. As we were pronounced married, I kissed my wife and heard the applause of 80 people who'd chosen to be there. People who cared. People who showed up. The reception flowed into evening. Dinner was excellent. The speeches were touching and funny. We had our first dance to a song we'd picked because it meant something to us, not because it was traditional. My new mother-in-law danced with me and welcomed me properly into their family. I felt full in a way that had nothing to do with food. Around 9 p.m., as planned, my new brother-in-law approached with his phone. He'd been documenting everything, just as I'd asked. Candid shots of the ceremony, the venue, the celebration. Videos of the toasts. Clips of the dancing. He'd captured the joy and the laughter and the love that had filled every moment of the day. He handed me his phone, and I scrolled through. They were perfect. Exactly what I needed. I selected the best ones and sent them to my friend from the marketing agency. She'd been waiting. Within 15 minutes, she sent back the finished product. A highlight reel, professionally edited, set to music. It told the story of the day in 2 minutes. The gorgeous venue. The emotional ceremony. The elegant reception. The crowd of happy, dressed-up guests celebrating with us. My wife and I laughing, dancing, surrounded by people who loved us. But that wasn't the part that would sting. She'd done exactly what I'd asked. Throughout the video, she'd included subtle overlays. The cost of the venue. The custom floral arrangements. The live band currently playing. The premium open bar. The gourmet catering. Not tacky or obvious, just tasteful text that appeared and faded, giving context to each beautiful moment. The total, which appeared at the end with a simple message about being grateful to celebrate with the people who mattered most, was significant. Not crazy by wedding standards, but substantial. The kind of money that made a statement about what kind of event this was. My wife appeared beside me and looked at the video on my phone. She watched it through, then looked at me with a raised eyebrow. She asked if I was sure about this. I told her I'd never been more sure of anything. She kissed my cheek and told me she loved me. I told her I loved her too, and that she should probably post it from her account as well. Maximum visibility. At 9:47 p.m., I posted the video to every social media platform I had. Facebook, Instagram, even LinkedIn, since half my extended family followed me there professionally. The caption was simple. Just married to my best friend. Grateful for everyone who celebrated with us today. Making memories that will last forever. My wife posted simultaneously from her accounts, with similar wording. Her family and friend network was extensive. Between the two of us, we had significant reach. Then I did one more thing. I sent the video directly to the family group chat. No message, just the video. Let it speak for itself. I put my phone in my pocket and returned to my wedding reception. I danced with my wife. I thanked our guests for coming. I ate cake and laughed at my college roommate's terrible dance moves and felt genuinely, completely happy. I didn't check my phone for the next 2 hours. When I finally looked again, it was after midnight. The reception was winding down, guests starting to head out with well wishes and hugs. My phone had exploded. The social media posts had gone viral within our networks. Hundreds of likes, dozens of comments. People from high school, college, old jobs, all congratulating us. Friends of friends sharing it. My wife's family and friends flooding the posts with love and celebration. But more interesting was the family group chat. My phone showed 47 unread messages. My sister had been first. Just 3 words. Are you kidding? Then Mom. A paragraph about how she couldn't believe I'd gotten married without telling them. How hurt she was. How dramatic this was. That word again. Dramatic. My sister again. Multiple messages now, increasingly frantic. Saying they would have come if I'd been serious. That they thought I was joking. That this was manipulative. Mom sent more messages. She was calling me ungrateful. Saying family should have been there. Demanding to know why I'd excluded them. My sister's husband chimed in. I barely knew the guy. He said this was immature. Various aunts and uncles had joined the chat apparently, tagged in by my mother. They were weighing in, most confused, some accusatory. How could I do this? Why wasn't family invited? This was hurtful. Then the private messages started. My sister called me 7 times. Mom called 4. Voicemails piled up. Text messages came through. All variations of the same theme. Anger, hurt, accusations, demands for explanation. I read through everything calmly. My wife watched over my shoulder, her expression shifting from amusement to disbelief. She asked if I was going to respond. I told her not tonight. Tonight was ours. They could wait. We left the venue with our closest friends, heading to the hotel where we'd booked the honeymoon suite. In the car, my phone kept buzzing. I turned off notifications and focused on my wife. We had a week in Hawaii starting Sunday. We had our whole lives ahead of us. My family's meltdown could wait. Update 1. I didn't touch my phone until Saturday afternoon. My wife and I slept late, had breakfast in bed, and spent the morning just being married. It felt surreal in the best way. When I finally turned my notifications back on, there were over 100 messages waiting. The family group chat had devolved into chaos. Apparently, the video had made its way to every corner of our extended family network. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years were commenting on social media. Family friends were asking questions. Everyone could see exactly what they'd missed. More importantly, everyone could see the message in the group chat from Tuesday. My sister's dismissive response. Mom's dramatic comment. My simple okay. It was all there, time-stamped and undeniable. Several relatives had apparently scrolled back and seen the exchange, putting together the timeline themselves. An aunt I'd always liked, my dad's sister, had sent me a private message. She said she'd seen everything and understood completely. She apologized for not reaching out sooner, said she'd lost my number after my dad passed, but had assumed I was staying connected with my mom and sister. She asked if we could talk sometime. I told her I'd like that. A cousin from my dad's side messaged to say congratulations and sorry for my mom and sister being terrible. He said it had always been that way and he was glad I'd gotten out. I thanked him. But the bulk of the messages were from my mother and sister. Mom's had progressed from angry to manipulative. She was talking about how much she'd sacrificed for me, how ungrateful I was, how this had humiliated her in front of everyone. She demanded I take down the posts and issue some kind of explanation or apology. My sister was angrier. She'd written several long messages about how I'd orchestrated this to make them look bad, how it was calculated and cruel, how I deliberately posted everything to embarrass them. She said I was petty and vindictive. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd literally just posted my wedding photos, something thousands of people do every single day. The fact that it made them look bad was entirely because of their own actions. I'd included the Tuesday message exchange for context, sure, but those were their words. Their choices. I showed my wife the messages. She shook her head and said they still didn't get it. They weren't sorry they'd missed my wedding. They were sorry everyone knew they'd missed my wedding. She was right. There wasn't a single genuine apology in any of the messages. No acknowledgement that they'd been dismissive and hurtful. No recognition that they'd made me feel worthless my entire life. Just anger that they'd been exposed. I crafted a response. Short. Clear. I posted it as a comment on my own social media post, knowing it would be seen widely. I wrote that I'd informed my family about the wedding 6 months ago with save the dates. I'd sent formal invitations 2 months ago. I'd sent a reminder a week ago. They'd responded Tuesday saying they were too busy and calling me dramatic for wanting them there. I'd accepted their decision. I was grateful to everyone who chose to celebrate with me and my wife. I was moving forward with my life surrounded by people who valued me. I didn't tag them. Didn't need to. Everyone knew who I was talking about. Then I did something I'd been considering for months. I muted the family group chat. I blocked my sister's number. I left my mom's unblocked, but turned off notifications. If she wanted to reach me, she could. But I was done being available for her convenience. My wife asked if I was okay. I told her I was better than I'd been in years. We spent the rest of the day packing for Hawaii and finalizing travel details. My phone buzzed occasionally, but I ignored it. Update 2. We returned from our honeymoon a week later, tanned and relaxed and blissfully disconnected from everything. I kept my phone mostly off during the trip, checking in only to share a few vacation photos. The notifications when I finally turned everything back on were insane. The story had apparently spread beyond our immediate circles. Someone had screenshotted the whole saga and posted it somewhere, and it had gotten traction. Strangers were weighing in. People were sharing similar family stories. It had become a whole thing. My mother had sent one final message, a week ago, that I'd missed. It was different from the others. Shorter. She said she was sorry I felt they hadn't been supportive. She hoped we could talk when I was ready. It wasn't exactly an apology, but it was closer than anything else she'd sent. My sister had gone silent after my public response. Her social media had been quiet too. I didn't know if that meant she was reflecting or just regrouping. Several other family members had reached out with genuine congratulations and support. My dad's sister followed up, and we scheduled a phone call. She filled me in on her life, asked about mine, and we talked for over an hour. She mentioned my dad would have been proud of me. I had to step away for a minute after that. 2 cousins from dad's side asked if they could meet my wife. We set up a dinner for the following weekend. It was strange and wonderful to be reconnecting with parts of my family I'd lost track of over the years. My wife's family continued to be amazing. Her parents invited us over for a post-honeymoon dinner where they presented us with a scrapbook they'd made of the wedding photos. Her grandmother sent a handwritten letter welcoming me to the family that made me tear up. Work was busy, which was good. It gave me something concrete to focus on. My coworkers who followed me on social media had seen everything but were tactful about it. A few mentioned they were glad the wedding had been beautiful. One older colleague whose opinion I respected pulled me aside and said sometimes the family you choose is more important than the one you're born into. I told him I was learning that. 3 weeks after the wedding, my mother called. Not texted. Actually called. I was at home, and my wife was there when it happened. I looked at her, and she nodded. I answered. Mom's voice was careful. She asked how I was doing. I said I was doing well. She asked about the honeymoon. I gave brief answers. There was a long pause. Then she said she wanted to apologize. Really apologize. She'd been thinking about everything, and she realized she'd been dismissive. She said she'd always known she treated my sister differently, but had never confronted how much that must have hurt me. She said missing my wedding was her biggest regret. I listened without interrupting. When she finished, I asked if she remembered my high school graduation. She said of course. I reminded her she'd missed it because my sister had a soccer tournament in another state. A tournament where she'd sat on the bench the entire time. Mom went quiet. I told her about my college acceptance to my first choice school. How I'd called to tell her, and she'd been distracted by my sister's minor car accident, barely hearing my news. About a dozen other moments, small and large, where I'd been invisible. She started crying. She said she was sorry. She wanted to make it right. I told her I appreciated the apology, but I needed time. I'd spent 32 years being the afterthought. I'd built a life without expecting anything from her, and that life was good. I had a wife who loved me, friends who showed up, and I was reconnecting with Dad's side of the family. I wasn't shutting her out, but I also wasn't going to pretend everything was fine now. She asked what she could do. I told her to think about what kind of relationship she actually wanted with me, beyond obligation. To figure out if she was apologizing because she was sorry or because she was embarrassed. To give me space until she knew the answer. We ended the call shortly after. My wife hugged me and said she was proud of me. I felt lighter than I had in months. My sister never apologized. I didn't expect her to. Some people can't admit when they're wrong. That was okay. I didn't need her validation anymore. Life moved forward. My wife and I started looking at houses. We hosted a dinner party for our closest friends. I got a promotion at work. We adopted a dog, a rescue mutt who was goofy and affectionate and perfect. My dad's side of the family became more present in my life. I had people to text about random things, to grab coffee with, to include in holiday plans. It felt like recovering something I hadn't realized I'd lost. 6 months after the wedding, Mom and I had lunch. Just the two of us. She'd been going to therapy, she said, working through some things. She asked about my life and actually listened to the answers. She met my wife properly, not just at a rushed family event, but for a real conversation. She was trying. It wasn't perfect. She still had habits that grated. She still talked about my sister more than I wanted to hear. But it was different. There was effort. That was something. I never regretted posting that video. Some people said it was petty or vindictive. Maybe it was. But it was also the truth. I'd invited them. They declined rudely. I'd gotten married surrounded by people who cared. Those were just facts. The wedding had been perfect not because everything went according to plan, but because it was authentically ours. Every person there had chosen to be there. Every moment had mattered. And when I looked back at the photos, I saw nothing but joy. My family had made their choice. I'd made mine. And for the first time in my life, I was choosing myself. That felt like the happiest ending I could have asked for. If you like this story, please like this video and subscribe us for more such real life-based stories. Thanks in advance.